What is up, folks? Nick McVicker, Josh Palermo, finally back in the From the Supporter Section pod. It's been a while, Josh. We've had some time off. Now it is time to get back into it, and a lot has happened. How are you doing? First of all, let's get that out of the way. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm buzzing. It's a big day for international soccer for Canada Soccer, so I'm feeling good about that. A big
Yes,
week.
it is.
Big week.
Yes, it is. It's been a big week. We've had the women's national team drop their latest roster and coaching staff. So there's that. We have the MLS and CPL decision day this weekend. So we will know who's in the playoffs and who is not. Hint, hint. A lot of Canadian teams will be in the CPL playoffs. Not as many will be in the MLS playoffs. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the Canadian men's national team play their friendly match against Panama. And we're going to start there, Josh, because Canada came out, Canada played, Canada did well. 2-1 victory over the Panamanians on home soil. And it was, I think that scoreline might be a little generous to Panama when you watch the game. But at the same time, you have to battle through. You have to get through those kind of games. And a 2-1 scoreline is very, very strong. I think Canada really showcased why they're one of the better teams in CONCACAF right now. And you got a lot of guys making their debuts. Kwasi, Poku gets into the match. We love to see that.
That was electric.
Saliba also, Joel Waterman all got in, which is great. We got a Theo Bear sighting. Like, this is all positive news from a youngster standpoint in the Canadian national team. You were there. You were on site for the match. What was the vibe at the stadium? What was the atmosphere from the fans? What was the atmosphere after the game when you were in the press conferences?
It was absolutely electric. So I'd never been in the press box at BMO Field. I had the wonderful opportunity to do that for the first time. And what is so electric is the fact that you could feel all 23,000 feet collectively stomping on the ground, just like it was shaking the floor.
Yep.
In the press box. So I was like the energy was truly palpable. So that was incredible. And then I was surprised. I wasn't. Before hearing Jesse Marsh speak in the build-up to this game, I wasn't exactly sure what we were going to get in terms of the guys that were going to be placed onto the field, because I feel like if you looked at those two friendlies that we had in the previous international break last month, it was a little bit more experimental in a way, maybe not necessarily the U.S. match, but definitely the Mexico one. And so I was really stoked to see those younger guys get a chance.
Yeah.
Later on in the match. I honest to God thought maybe that they would get going a little bit earlier, but it was important, I think, because you wanted to be able to, Jesse Marsh is still really just trying to implement his system and get everybody flowing. And I think we're starting to see that. So that was phenomenal.
Yep.
And then, it had applications for the CONCACAF ranking, which was going to impact Nations League stuff and all that. So, it was huge to get them in there. It was incredible. Oh, my God, just an incredible experience being there. I was just that's why I said buzzing at the start of this, because that's how I felt afterwards. That was truly a fantastic match.
Gave me a very late call that night. I was already asleep. He was buzzing, folks.
This is true. Nick was way in bed, and I was like, buddy. I was talking to myself on the drive home, but it was okay.
You mentioned the young guys getting in. We mentioned the ones that got into the game. How about we talk about the ones that maybe didn't make an appearance but got into camp? A couple names that maybe a lot of people don't know, and I think that needs to change. Jamie Knight-Labelle, Nico Sigur, and Santiago Lopez all made it into camp, which I think is a huge deal. Something that we never saw in prior iterations of this national program. We didn't bring youngsters in just for the sake of bringing them in to get experience around the club. Or the squad, not the club. That wasn't the case. We didn't do that before. Now we're seeing the national program implement this kind of strategy in friendly windows. And you're bringing youngsters in and getting them experience being around the national program, getting them practices with the national program. That is a huge, huge deal. Yes, they didn't get into the game this time, but if they come back again and they get invited again, who's to say that they're not going to get minutes the next time they're here? And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away, other than the victory, from this camp for the Canadian men's national team.
No, I think that's totally fair. I think that it breeds a competitive culture, and that's what you want. You want to sort of give those guys a taste and say, yeah, no, we want to be able to maintain our place in this squad and play at this level consistently. And so I've been really, yeah, it's been really cool to see Jesse Marsh doing that. He's definitely backed up his word. You know, he wants to be there and part of building infrastructure for the players in the game in Canada. So that's phenomenal. And like, yeah, like I think the biggest takeaway for me from this was Jonathan David and Kyle Larin. Like, I think it has to be.
Yes.
I think that was the live tweet that I put out. Was like, finally the floodgates can open. Kyle Larin has scored.
He scored. You know the crazy thing is they are tied on international goals, the two of them. So now they're just gonna go 1-1.
Well, that is precisely what Jesse Marsh said in the press conference. He goes, I think it's just like it's Kyle and then it's Jonathan, and so and he was saying how I think Kyle Larin has acknowledged the fact that Jonathan David will eventually surpass him.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful competition to have right now, and that's what you need. And I think that what we saw at the Copa was, again, when I talked a little bit earlier about them figuring out how to play together in the system, the whole team in general, but really those two in particular, figuring out how they're going to work as a strike partnership has not been an easy thing. But it was something about this match, like it just everything clicked, and it was so beautiful, so wonderful to watch. Like, I was thoroughly impressed with our midfield. I think I said that. I think I also had people disagree with me a tiny little bit. I was impressed with Schwannier's performance. Anyhow. But yeah, no, Jonathan David, what he was able to do, he played like a phenomenal number 10. And that was so great to see. And there I was, the Chooch, the entire Copa America being, I don't think he's that guy. I think that you have to put him in the 9, get him out of there. But no. I stand correct. Jesse Marsh knows what he's doing. And that was just it. They've had the time to cultivate that, and everybody's just got going. I think, to have Larin score for Mallorca was big. And then, of course, David's been doing what he's been doing. But now that, they've gotten more minutes together under Marsh, and I think it all clicked in a beautiful way in this match.
And I think that's what it comes down to, is that if they are both going, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
But they haven't been going for a while here for the Canadian national program. They have really struggled over the past, I would say, calendar year, trying to score for the red and white. So, we talked about David maybe not playing that 10 and not being the right guy for that position. And that's fine. We can have that conversation. But it doesn't mean he's not the guy. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play that position for his club. So we can't even, see it at the club level. This is something that we've needed to see. And that was the first time that we've really seen it click consistently, maybe since the World Cup, when they looked dangerous in the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair statement, which is great news for Canada if they can continue that and get more comfortable and get more confident in that role. And when we play the bigger sides, like when we go play the U.S. or when we go play Mexico in CONCACAF, or when we go play the European powerhouses, we're not as concerned. We are prepared to deal with that because we have the attacking force that we know we can trust. And having the wingers step up as well is a big deal. Ali Ahmed, I know Liam Miller had a better game as well this week. Jacob Schaffelberg has been doing great. Probably his weakest game for Canada in a while, ironically, against Panama. And then we're also, by the way, missing a pretty good piece in Tejan Buchanan.
Yeah.
That's a guy that's going to be able to come in and play a role in this side. Jonathan Osorio can sometimes play out on that side. Quasi obviously comes in, and he played for not very long. I think it was like 5 minutes, but
yeah, he didn't get a single touch. That's what also Jesse Marsh said. He was like, another cameo for somebody, their debut, where they didn't actually get a single foot on the football.
Yeah, so obviously I know he was playing more up front, but he's a guy who could also play on that wing position if we need that.
And that's where he's playing in Belgium.
Yeah, and there's some flexibility in that, which is such a key thing, because a lot of the times we don't get to see that. We don't see a flexible national team roster. A lot of them are very, very structured, and players play one position. That's not the case in Canada right now. And I think right now, the way Jesse Marsh has set up this side, that flexibility is huge.
100%. No, you need that versatility, and that is a key difference for our side. 100%. I think also when you can have sort of like 2 players per role on a squad, you're automatically going to be in better position. Like, that's just, It is what it is. So if we can continue to build a competitive environment where guys are really having to fight for spots on this club, we're going to get the best out of our players. And I think that's kind of what we saw with Liam Miller here. Like, Jacob Schaffelberg, it was sort of like just the complete inverse of what we saw in the summer, which was beautiful. Like, Schaff earned his spot starting in the Copa America coming off of the bench. And I think Liam Miller 100% took that personally. And he's not going to say that. He was talking afterwards about how he has a wonderful relationship. But I'm sure they all do, of course. But that being said, you don't want your starting spot taken. That's a no doubt.
No.
So he sees Schaff starting this one. He goes, okay. And he's been playing well for Hull City. Like, he's been picking up the apples. Yep. He's been putting in the hard work in the second tier of English soccer. So like, oh my God, yeah, no, and I said that too. He was our difference maker. The second that he stepped on the pitch, everything changed. And I think also, like, obviously Panama had scored a goal, so Canada's like, we really got to kick it into gear here. But no, like, the pace that he brought on that left side, it really, like, obviously the press had worked out in our first goal. It was Ali Ahmed picking that up and sending that pass over to Larry, which was beautiful. But it just felt like there was a little bit of a different dimension to that once Miller came on. And then, of course, like, the way that he linked up with David, like, it was just one of the most beautiful goals I have had the opportunity to see in person. Funny enough, I guess I've been treated to a couple of nice goals at BMO because I was there for Insigne's one of the nice things he did. He scored a nice strike.
One of the few.
Yeah, the few things he's done. Yeah. But no, that was incredible. And then last little highlight was just like Bombito, like and yes. Playing for the first time for Canada in Canada. I guess like that for a lot of these guys. It was incredible. Like, you had the fans cheering his name, and he talked about that a little bit afterwards too. Like, what a surreal, incredible experience for him. Just the growth that he's had, and like, yeah, just it's incredible for him to be able to be playing in France. But I think that it's just like, I don't know. There's another level to that says, yeah, you're putting on that shirt for your home country, and you get to play in Canada, and it's just like, I don't think there's anything better than that. No. And I think it's huge for his development. And hearing. Yeah, Jesse Marsh speak about him. Like, he thinks he's going to be one of the best center backs in the game. He was talking about how
I want to get into this. Yeah. Because since this match, there's been a few people, media, fans, have come out and said one of the most ridiculous things that I think I've ever heard a Canadian national team member be involved in. We have the next Virgil van Dijk on the Canadian national program. And I'm like, okay, listen. I think Moise Bombito is going to be a very, very good player. Yeah. It could end up being one of the best center backs in the world. Can we maybe like pump the tires a little bit on the Virgil van Dijk comparisons? Yeah. Like, just deep breath, hold on. He's played really well for the last 8 months for the national program? But let's remember, this guy wasn't even getting consistent minutes at Colorado prior to this season. He was playing Colorado too a lot of the time. And now he has picked up his game. And he's absolutely killing it out in France. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But maybe just like pump the tires a little bit. Just a wee little bit there.
Just a wee little bit, yeah.
Because he is still growing into his game. He's going to have moments where it doesn't look pretty. And people will jump on him. And they will be ruthless. Because that's what media and fans do. We know that. That's just how it works. But he could be very, very good, and we need to support and build that without going over the top. That's kind of the whole point of this comment, but just reel it in a little bit. We're going to be okay. He's going to be great, but let's just pump the tires just a little bit.
Take it easy.
So you mentioned the fact that this had a big impact on the CONCACAF standings in the world right now, and it did because that win by Canada secured them second in CONCACAF going into the Nations League quarterfinals, which means we get to play Suriname in a home and away. I think it's home and away series, which will take place this November. We got Suriname because they finished as the best second-place team in qualifying for these quarterfinals. Canada, Mexico, U.S., and Panama all had a bye to the quarterfinals, and then they got seeded, and based off that, they play whoever they play. So the other matchups are Mexico versus Honduras, United States versus Jamaica, and Panama versus Costa Rica. These are big. You win this, you get a spot in the 2024 or 2025 Gold Cup. That's important.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to make fun of the Gold Cup because it's the Gold Cup, and that's fine. You can. But it is a major international tournament, and it gets points in the FIFA rankings, which ahead of the World Cup is very, very important.
Wait, Nick, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time that Canada won the Gold Cup?
2000.
So if it's not that important of a tournament, why
Say
aren't we
20
winning it
something, but
every time that we're in it? You know what I mean? It's important.
it's
We
important.
need. It's
It's
very
important.
important.
Not only is it important for just the fact that you need to win trophies, but it's important because FIFA rankings are important when it comes to the World Cup rankings, right? And which pot you're going to be in and who you end up facing. Because as we found out, Canada was so close to being in pot 3 at the last World Cup, and instead we were in pot 4 and we had to face 3 bigger teams, right?
Super chill group, yeah.
Yeah, super chill. Belgium, Croatia, Morocco. Super chill. That means something. Not for this next World Cup because we're automatically in Group A, but for the World Cups following this one.
Yeah, I mean it's just
2030.
right?
But every win counts.
Yeah.
So we have to build up those championships. We need to build up the Gold Cups. We need to build up the Nations League wins. Those are important matches. So yes, this tie against Suriname, everyone's looking at it like, oh, it's just Suriname. Well, Suriname's been playing well recently, right? And Costa Rica has not, and that's why Costa Rica is 8th out of the 8 teams, and Suriname's 7, and that's why we're playing them, right? Let's also talk about the fact that U.S. may have gotten the worst possible draw because they have to go through Jamaica, who I know Jamaica's Jamaica, and you might not get a great game every single match, but they're a tough out in any tournament.
Yeah.
And then they will most likely have to play Canada, assuming Canada can beat Suriname, and Mexico beats Honduras.
Yeah.
Right? Which is the more likely of the scenarios. They'll have to go through Canada just to get to the final.
You love to see the match.
And they're not playing well. The U.S. are not playing well, man.
No.
So,
no.
not only do they have the hardest path, but then they also aren't playing well. So, go Canada, go, baby. Allez les Rouges.
Allez la Rouge. Like that's the whole narrative that's been going for a little bit of a while now. People love to have that conversation. Are they the best team in CONCACAF? And that's just it. And it's tournaments like this that give you the opportunity to truly prove that when you're going up against your fellow nations in this in this continent. So yeah, God, it's setting itself up. It's setting itself up to be very big for this country. So I hope that we can take advantage of that. And I mean, all things are going in the right direction in terms of the play that we're having on the field ourselves. And then also, yeah, the U.S. has not been at the top of their game, and
Yeah.
I hope that we get to have a nice little rematch against Mexico after the last match we played against them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we end up getting to play Mexico in this, because that'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on because we got a lot to talk about in the next 2 segments because it's a big weekend. All right,
Yeah.
It's a big weekend. And normally we would call this decision day, but the CPL has come out with the outcome this year.
No, they're different. They're hipster.
They're
They wouldn't
different,
say
which
that.
is fine.
The
I
MLS
like
took
it. You know
that.
what? I like it.
I don't not like it. It's just funny.
I like it. And there's a lot at stake. A lot at stake. First, we know who's going to finish 4th, and we know who's going to finish 1st in the CPL. Those spots are the only ones that are guaranteed. And we know who's going to – well, no, we don't know who's going to finish last. I was going to say we know who's finishing last, but that's not even a guarantee.
No, that is the most exciting part, arguably for me, to be honest. But we'll get to that.
But Halifax is the only team mathematically eliminated from the playoffs right now. So Wanderers, fans, I apologize. It's not been a great year. There was a lot of hope coming into this season, and they fell a little flat. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do out in the East Coast in the offseason. But let's get to the fun stuff. First, let's talk about the second place race. Cavs, Atletico, separated by 2 points. Just 2.
Ooh, baby.
Just 2 points, baby. And they play 2 different matches. Atletico plays Vancouver, and Cavs play Valor. Those are also going to be interesting because both of those teams are still in the running to play in the playoffs, but right now are on the outside looking in. Pacific holds a 2-point lead over Vancouver FC and a 3-point lead over Valor. Now, here's where the fun starts. Valor can still get in on tiebreaker if they win by 3 and Pacific loses by at least one, and Vancouver does not win. Vancouver is in if they win and Pacific loses, or if they win by like 9 goals and Pacific ties. It's a lot harder to do. Let's say they win and Pacific loses, because that's probably the easiest. And Pacific is in as long as they win. And
it's
if
genuinely
if they tie and Vancouver puts up less than 8 goals, or wins by less than 8 goals. So they pretty much need a tie or a win. Vancouver needs a win and a huge win at that, and a Pacific draw or loss. And Valor needs a lot to happen. So,
Yeah.
Josh, knowing that, and the 4 games, Halifax York doesn't really matter.
Are you kidding me? I'm so excited
Pride,
for that one.
Other than Pride at this point, that game doesn't mean anything for the standings, I should say.
Doesn't mean jack squat.
For the playoff standings. It does technically for the standings, but yeah. Atletico Vancouver already said, Valor, Cavs, and Pacific Forge. So Forge can really determine how things go in the playoffs with this game on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I'm going to quickly go across the time frame across the country so that everyone is prepared. Pacific Time, 1 o'clock. Mountain Time, 2 o'clock. Central Time, 3 o'clock. Eastern, 4, and Atlantic, 5 o'clock. p.m. Eastern Time, or p.m. on Saturday, not Eastern Time. Wow.
It's okay.
Been a long week, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who do you think
That's what we
has
get for doing a Thursday show.
Yeah. Who do you think has the best chance of getting through out of those 3 teams battling for fifth?
Man, this is a bloody juicy one because I picked Pacific. The last time we had a conversation a couple of weeks back about who that was going to be. And Pacific has not proved me wrong. And that was a really tough thing about the game that I watched them play against York, because I was bummed as a York fan, but also I was like, good on you, Pacific, because what a match, truthfully. What are we gonna think here? Like, Atletico absolutely balled out against Forge. Now, did Forge put out their best squad? Were they looking the best? No. That being said, I feel like they were actually getting things to click in a fantastic way.
You still got to play the game.
Like, we have no idea what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, Vancouver, they frustrated the hell out of me on Sunday because they couldn't take their goddamn chances. So how do you expect to make the playoffs if you're not going to score? Figure it out. Like, there was opportunity after opportunity to put that one away, and I feel like that's been the MO of Vancouver, is they just can't get it together. So here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Wait. No. Give me 30 more seconds to rant so that I can really
Please do.
come up with a good what I think will actually happen. Like, okay, so one more time, we're going to take game by game. I think Atletico takes Vancouver easy money. We're going to forget about Halifax.
Easy money, he says. You hear that, Vancouver fan? Easy money.
Sorry. Unless you could score, like, against their 5-back, I don't think so. Not having it.
Yeah,
Pacific versus Forge. No, definitely not. This is the only juicy thing. Could Pacific lose to Forge? And you know what? I'm going to bank on Pacific, because what they were able to do, clogging up the midfield against York in that diamond formation, was pretty sick. Dada Luke had a game for himself. And Dada Luke? Yes,
Dada Luke.
Look at me. I'm going to get my pronunciations down. It's okay.
We'll get there at some point.
We'll get there. So no, you know what? I'm going to stick with it because I don't see Valor beating Cavs. Like, I think Cavs, like, all of these. That's the other thing too, is like, Cavs want to win this. Atletico both want to win because they don't want to have. They want to have that 1v2 game. They both want to finish in second. So I'm sticking with Pacific. They're still going to be my team because there is a lot on the line for everybody. But I think that the super team in Ottawa is going to feel we have this on the line a little bit more, and they're going to show up because they're getting it together. And I think, like, again with Valor, there's 2 teams that haven't convinced me. They just haven't convinced me this season. They've got some pieces, but it's just not it. This is not it. This is Pacific. Pacific all the way for 5th. We're number 5, baby.
For 5th. He's so proud of it. Okay, I'm going to go off the board. And I think this might be more of a I hope this happens pick. Because I think Pacific has the inside track, and I think that they have the best chance of actually getting through. I think Valor might actually do it. I think they can win by 3. Not because I don't
What?
think I don't think Cav. It's not that I don't think Cavs can play well, but Valor is at home, and they're the only one of the three teams that is at home. Oh, Pacific's at home as well. My apologies. But Valor is at home. They are playing a team that is trying to go for it, but they've had to fight from the basement. They know what it's going to take to get in. They know what the scoreline has to be. And something eventually has to break right for this club. It has to.
Okay.
Maybe it's not this week. And maybe Pacific will go through because all they just need is a point and Valor is out.
Yeah.
But I could see a scenario in which Forge puts one goal in and just shuts it down and pulls out the win against Pacific. I could see a scenario where Vancouver loses to Atletico, like you already said, and Valor puts up 3.
Damn.
Because they need it. They need it. They need something so desperately up in Winnipeg for this squad.
Yeah.
Why can't it be this? Why can't it be this playoff run? And then we'll see where it goes from there.
If we have this conversation next week and Valor has won the match by 3, I don't know. I got to notch something. I think I got to shave my eyebrows because that'd be crazy. I'd love to see it.
I wouldn't let you do that, but yes.
No, but that's crazy. Like, that's... Listen, if Temi and Tonoglu can put this team on his back, yes.
Yeah.
I'd be down for it. I'd be down for it. So, you know what, Nick? I'm going to be optimistic with you.
I like the idea. And, yes, in the final match, by the way, I do think York ends up pulling it out. But at the same time, let's say Halifax beats York and Valor wins by 3, or Valor wins period, and Atletico beats Vancouver. Guess who's at the bottom? Vancouver. Vancouver ends up falling all the way to the bottom after their incredible start. They go to the bottom.
Yeah, what an unfortunate season. Like,
Right?
I was so hyped about Vancouver to kick things off.
Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna follow this question up now. Who has surprised you the most good, and who has surprised you the most bad this season in the CPL? Because the season's pretty much over. Obviously, we have one more game for each team, but who has surprised you the most good, and who has surprised you the most bad as a club?
Yeah, I think York. I did not at all, especially after like how poorly we started this season.
Yeah.
I did not think that York was gonna be in a playoff spot. Honest to God. And then I think it's got to be. I don't know. Like I just kind of said Vancouver. I don't know. Halifax, Vancouver, both of them. Really.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna say Vancouver because I felt like they had everything clicking to start the year. I was so impressed with what Paris G was doing. We were having conversations that we were like, we think he might be the most underrated player in the CPL.
I still would say that, but
Yeah, I just, haven't been able to take their chances, and it hasn't worked out. And Austin Ricci's addition to that side hasn't beefed everything up like maybe we had hoped it was going to, So, like, I don't know, guys. Pull it together, really. Pull it together, eh? Like, that's all I want to see, because that's like I was banking on him. And I think that what's funny is we're talking about who's going to get the last playoff spot, and people are going to finish in last place, whatever. But I do feel like all 3 of these teams they are good teams. They have great pieces. There are things that they do right, and I'm most sad that Halifax didn't make the playoffs because there was a point there 2-3 weeks back where you just the football was beautiful.
yeah,
it really was.
Get results.
No, and that's the problem. It's just that defend. Just learn how to defend, and then we'll talk later. It was just they would play beautiful football. They couldn't track back to defend well, and then they were conceding first. And it was just like, if we can tighten things up, I think that they're going to have, out of these 3 teams, I think they'll have the biggest year next year. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
And on that's actually my biggest surprise team this year is Halifax, because I expected a lot from them this year. I expected them to be maybe 3rd or 4th. And it didn't end up happening. They couldn't put it all together. There was some question marks, I'm not going to lie, but I expected them to be able to find something out there, and they just haven't. It's been missing the whole season. So they've surprised me poorly. The team that has surprised me positively the whole season is Forge. And I hate saying it. And I know this might be it looks like a kind of a cop-out answer when you say that my biggest surprise positive is the first place team and my biggest surprise negative is the last place team. But but if you really think about it, going into the season, we were talking about Cavs looking really good. We were talking about Atletico with the super team. We were talking about York making a bunch of changes. We were talking about Vancouver with their bolstered lineup, right? We weren't really talking about Forge's lineup because, if
Yeah.
anything, we thought that they were going to take a step back because they had lost some pieces that have been key over the last few years, including Tristan Henry, who was their keeping stalwart at the back. Well,
That's true.
well, you know what? Don't worry about that. They figured it out. They found two keepers that are solid back there. Their back line has probably looked better this season than they have in any season that I can remember. And attacking wise, they lost Quasi partway through the season and didn't miss a beat. Like, this team
That's
is
true.
just
Yeah.
this
yeah.
team to me exceeded all the expectations I put forward for them at the beginning of the season because they just outdid everything that I thought. I thought they were going to take a step back. I thought they were going to be in that 3 through 5 range, still making the playoffs. I never had them out of the playoffs, but I thought they were going to have to battle this year. And they did battle, but they battled from the top as
Yeah.
opposed to the middle. So that's why they're my biggest positive surprise team.
No, I got to give it to you because, what Bobby Smyrniotis has been able to do to rally this side and get the best out of his players has been incredible. Because Kwesi Poku wasn't even the starting striker, right? Like, that was
That too.
He literally, midway through the season, takes a guy who was playing wingback. Like, he's a defender. Like, he was
He's
a
a
defender.
wingback, yeah.
Yeah. And they put him in, and he put him as a striker. And he absolutely cooked. He cooked so much to the point that he earned himself the biggest transfer out of the CPL in the history of the league in its 6 years. Like, what? Kudos to Bobby Smyrniotis. Quickly, I had this thought to myself, and you need to tell me how unrealistic it is because I haven't had.
Well, it is, but just continue anyway.
Could he ever coach Toronto FC?
Could he? Yes. Will he? No.
Okay. Why? Quickly, why?
I think there's too much politics in the back end. And I feel like if he was going to, he would have at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's been around so long.
What I would give.
I
Yeah.
think he'll end up in the MLS at some point, but I don't think it will be with Toronto FC.
No, that's fair. That's
Or
fair.
he'll end
And
up in Europe. I just don't think he ends up with Toronto
Interesting.
FC.
I mean, that's just it. It's a bit of
And that's my
pipe
opinion.
dream. But
That is
it
my
was.
opinion on that one. Could he end up? Yes, he absolutely could end up with TFC. And is it possible? Yes. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's just kind of sort of funny because I had that thought, and in the back of my head, I was like, "No way, that could never happen," for reasons just that I couldn't even articulate. But wouldn't make sense to me. Like, there's certainly not a amicable relationship between the two clubs.
No.
You know what I mean? So I couldn't see Bobby heading over there. It'd be a big trader vibes. But I don't know. Conte coached Napoli after what he did with Juve. So who knows? I will continue to dream big. I wanted him to coach the men's national team.
Yeah, that would have been
before
interesting.
Jesse Marsh got appointed. But obviously, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Jesse Marsh wholeheartedly.
It's been a lot of fun watching Jesse take over the national team. But yeah, Bobby should have been in the running. Wheeldon should have been in the running as well.
Yeah.
Out in Cavs. And again, we talked about how poor Cavs started the season. They were awful. Remember, I think they went like the first 8 games without a win or something.
Yeah.
They're
draw.
They are in second right now.
Yeah.
Because they find ways to win. They have more draws than every team except for Forge has wins.
Yeah.
Including themselves. They only have 11 wins. They have 12 draws.
They like to tell.
Forge has 15 wins. They're kind of in their own category when it comes to wins. But they only have 5 draws. So they either win or lose. There's not a whole lot of draws or points picked up when they're not winning. So that's another thing. That's why the point differential is only 5. Only separated by 5 points heading into this weekend.
It's been a really. This has been a very exciting season in the CPL.
Yeah.
Has it been the most exciting season in the CPL?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought last season was more exciting, but
That's true. I mean, Halifax was cooking there at the end. They made it into the
Halifax.
playoff spot.
There was a lot of teams that were entertaining, even if they weren't playing well. Halifax
think
was
it's-
not playing well this year for most of the season, which made it less entertaining. Valor at the start of the season was so poor. Cavs was boring at the beginning of the season because they just eked out draws. You know what I mean? This has been the most. Last year was more entertaining from start to finish. This one might have the most entertaining final day.
And that's just it. So thank you for the outcome. Because, like, it's true. Like, every game truly is meaningful except for the York Wanderers match. So it's
Which
exciting.
is meaningful when it comes to standings because there's a potential that Halifax can get out of the basement.
Yeah.
Right? But other than that, like, it means nothing for York. They are fourth. They are solid. They are secure. They don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to worry about going on the road. They get the first home playoff game.
So, and that's what I'm really curious about to see how Miami Mora approaches that, because it's like, do you take your best squad out to the East Coast for a meaningless game when you have all of these injuries that you're having to deal with and stuff? Like,
yeah, it could be interesting. It could be interesting. From the outcome to decision day, MLS, we got it, folks. MLS is now on decision day, and there are still some spots available. The West is done. Vancouver will play in the playoffs. What position they finish in, all the actual standings spots are up for grabs pretty much. Vancouver could finish as high as, I believe they could finish as high as sixth.
Sixth, right? Fifth?
No, they can't get to fifth. They're 4 points back of fifth, so they can't get to fifth. But they could finish sixth. They would need some things to fall their way. Colorado's currently there, 3 points up. They have to pass Minnesota, who's 2 points up. So worst case scenario, they will be in the play-in game. The East is a little bit more entertaining because 4 teams battling for 2 play-in spots because none of them can catch 7th. That's done and dusted. They are out of the secured playoff spots. They're all playing for the play-in. And we have 4 teams separated by 3 points. Technically 5 teams separated by 3 points, but one of them's already done their season because Toronto FC sucks.
They do.
Did I say that out loud? They had their postseason press conferences today.
Yeah, that's what it is, like locker cleanout day, right?
Yeah. The season's not even over yet, man. Like,
that's
wait till
how
next week.
That's already. Like, everybody's ready to scrap this year. I like that.
We're done.
He's putting out the big heartfelt messages. He's like opening up his Instagram stories to like ask me anything that you want. Quickly, I know that just really quickly. It made me giggle because it felt like Bernadeschi, again, as we've always been saying, it's just been the one that has cared more out of the 2 of them.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
He puts together like a post that was like, oh yeah, no, Federico Bernadeschi made this Instagram post. Federico Bernadeschi runs his Instagram account. Lorenzo Insigne, it's this like graphic, very short message, definitely put together by his team. And I was like, dude, you sucked. You continue to suck. The least you could do is like be a human being. Like, let me know that you're a real person who is on his Instagram, who like actually feels apologetic about how awful you were this season. No, Bernadeschi took responsibility, and he was our best player. Anyhow.
Yeah, for the most part, he was our best player. And by our best player, we mean TFC because we're not on the team.
Listen, put me there in the 9 next season. I'm there. Me and my 5'10" self.
In the 9?
I'm not going to be ready. In the 9.
You're going to play the 9.
Listen, I haven't even played there when I play my recreational soccer. I play as a winger. So, listen, I
didn't think you could play the 9.
I can't, but it doesn't matter. Okay?
All right, then. Well, let's get back to the actual footy being had. And, yeah, so TFC is technically tied with Philly and Atlanta and actually ahead of them based on head-to-head. But they are eliminated already. They cannot get to 40 points. DC, Montreal are both on 40 points. So, couple scenarios. Montreal and DC pick up 1 point. They are both in. All they need is a draw. And just so I have the games correct, Montreal is playing New York City FC, and DC is playing Charlotte, who are 5th and 6th. And actually, that could help them each if, depending on who wins those games, one of them will finish in the 5th spot, most likely. Unless Orlando loses and New York City wins, then that's a whole nother thing. So New York City is playing for potentially 4th.
Yeah.
So that's a lot harder of a match for Montreal. If Montreal and DC both get a point, they are in, guaranteed. That's all they need, a point or a draw or a win. They're through. Philly and Atlanta, they can get in if both DC and Montreal lose, or one of them lose. And I don't know what the head-to-head situation is, so I would have to look that up. But there is a chance that they could get in still. So, there's lots to play for those 4 teams. There is some to play for a lot of teams when it comes to seeding. because LA and LAFC both could win the Western Conference. So that comes down to the very final day. Seattle and Real Salt Lake are tied on 56 points in the West for third. And then, as I mentioned, Houston, Colorado, Minnesota are all separated by just 2 points for fifth. So there is a lot to play for when it comes to seeding, but the real playoff push is in the East. So, Josh, I'm going to ask a very simple question to you. You're going to answer it very simply and then give me your reasoning why, okay? It's a yes or no question. So, simple answer here, sir. Are you ready?
Yes.
Does Montreal get into the playoffs?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't know, looking at their head-to-head record against New York City, they have lost 13 times.
Okay.
They've won twice. They have drawn 5. You're right. All they need is a draw. Now, I actually can you fact check this for me quickly?
I can try.
Is Nathan Saliba injured? Did he pick up a knock? Because I thought I had heard somewhere that he was injured. Because my answer does low-key hinder on this. I'm not going to lie to you.
Let me see.
Dun, dun, dun.
You keep talking, but
I know. I'm sorry. So you didn't want me to sing?
I have no problem with you singing, but there needs to be something while I'm looking stuff up. So.
No, I'm just curious because I know what's funny enough is I tried to do the exact same thing.
He played on Tuesday.
No, he did play on Tuesday. I might be tweaking, and so that's totally fine. All I was going to say was, yeah, if he's not manning that pivot along Samuel Payet, I think it's going to be very difficult for Montreal to get things together for themselves. I don't think that their defenses look particularly exceptional at all this season, right? So, how are we going to muscle out a draw here? What does that even look like? I think that New York City, again, they have had the advantage in terms of just lifetime record against them, but also, they've been balling their last 3 matches. They picked up the 5-1 dub over New York Red Bulls. They picked up a 3-2 win over Cincinnati. They walloped a struggling Nashville 3-1. I want to see Montreal get it together, but they've been lacking in the consistency. I mean, they lost to Charlotte 2-0, right? So, and they haven't had that consistency. It was weird. We sat here and said, what are they even doing at the deadline? Are we getting rid of everybody? Or are they trying to give themselves a nice little push to actually get into the playoffs? So I just think at this moment it's a bit too tough of a mountain to climb to see them get a point.
Okay. I'm gonna follow that up because I think it's a lot easier for them to get in than you think.
Okay.
All right. Montreal gets in with a winner or draw versus New York City. Or if DC loses versus Charlotte and Philly lose or draw versus Cincinnati, Montreal owns the tiebreaker over DC, so Montreal's in. Hold on. There's more. If DC lose to Charlotte and Atlanta lose/draw to Orlando, Montreal owns the tiebreaker advantage over Atlanta. So both them and DC would get in. And if Philly lose or draw to Cincy and Atlanta lose or draw to Orlando, Montreal is in. So there's 4 ways for Montreal to get in.
Okay,
and only one of them requires them to get a point.
Permutations are hard, guys. We definitely missed some information. We poked some holes here. I've been got.
No, I was trying to find it. That's what I've been trying to do, and I couldn't remember where it was.
So I appreciate that. Okay, well I take back everything I said. I'm gonna get up and leave now. You can take on the rest of the show. That's just it. Nick,
I don't know about that.
Save me here.
Yeah. I think Montreal gets in more than anything because they have the upper hand. Literally, there's so many ways that they could get in because of their tie-breaking scenarios. They have the tiebreaker over DC and they have the tiebreaker over Atlanta. So they could actually finish 8th without having to win a game.
No.
You know what I mean? So there's so much going in the favor of Montreal in this scenario that I think they get in. But they're going to limp in, I think. I don't know if they get the win, which sucks. It's not a good record against New York City. Now, are they at home? They are. So that does help a little bit. So I think they could eke out a draw and get in on their own merit, but they're limping in. Let's be honest. Yeah. So I think they get in. That means 2 Canadian teams in the play-in, most likely. I know Vancouver could technically still get into 7th and out of the play-in, but you know what I mean. There's a good chance that they'll be in the play-in too. So we've talked about TFC and how poor they've been this season, but which of the two teams getting in do you think have the best chance of making a deep run or
It's
a
gotta be
deeper
Vancouver.
run?
It's got to be Vancouver, hands down.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, because I know they have struggled to end this season, which has been quite unfortunate. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I've been very bummed. I've not been impressed by their performances. I think that they should have performed better. And so, albeit yes, they're coming in cold. I think that in terms of matchups, who they're going to ultimately face, because now you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong again. We know this is what it is. Yeah, even so, if Montreal with the playoff playing game, if they win, then they immediately face off against Inter Miami, right?
Correct.
But then again, so like they're getting squashed. Like there's no way. Then again, Vancouver against LA Galaxy, they also didn't. The last time,
LAFC, depending on who wins that. Because either of them, they could either both end up at the top.
yeah, I mean, and then the other brutal thing is that it's not like that like they lost 4-2 against the Galaxy when they played them at the end of September, and then they just lost to LAFC. So, but that being said, I think you learn from those experiences. I think I always put my trust in Vanni Sartini any day of the week, and I love a good Catenaccio football, and I think that yeah, they get stringing together, and I think that they could pull an upset.
Yeah,
I think that magic can happen.
And the question was, which team do you think is more likely to be able to make a long run, not which team will make a deep run? And I think you're right. I think it has to be Vancouver, if more than anything, the experience that they have in prior seasons, because a lot of the team came back from last year, right?
No.
They were in the playoffs last year. They've gone on deep runs in the Canadian Championship. This Montreal side hasn't. See, if Montreal has not been good for a few years now, and they are very, very young. No. So we're looking at it. I think you're right. I think the best chance for a Canadian team to make a deep run is Vancouver. Am I saying it's out of the realm of possible that Montreal could make a deep run? No. But they have to, A, get in, which they haven't done yet. B, win a play-in game. And then C, beat Inter Miami to make a deep playoff run. That's a lot. Whereas Vancouver's already in. They've already done one. They have to win a play-in game, potentially. They might not even have to win a play-in game. Mm-hmm. They could get into that 7th spot and have to play either LAFC or LA Galaxy anyway.
Chief that way.
But you could still... There's still a more realistic chance that they could make a run just because they don't have to go through X, Y, and Z to get to the second round of playoffs.
No.
So I agree with you. I think Vancouver is the answer. But they need to really step it up.
Yeah.
And quickly, because they have to bite them.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm not. I wouldn't say that I sit here with a lot of optimism for either of the clubs. No, I think that we could very easily see.
Yeah.
Both Canadian teams out after round one.
Yeah, which is disappointing, I would say.
Yeah. It's almost like it'd kind of be cool if the MLS shrinked the number of teams that get into the playoffs. That would make things more competitive.
No. What are you saying?
What do I know?
This is unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add on the MLS decision day before we move on, my friend?
No, the burning question inside of me truly is, what is a cooler name? The outcome or decision day?
Decision day. I'm sorry. But you got to come up with your own creative things. So I give the CPL props for trying something different. And it's good. It's very solid. But decision day is better.
Yeah, I think the name's better. But I would argue that there's more importance behind the matches happening in the outcome.
Yes, I will give you that. I will absolutely
that feels realer. Like, why isn't TFC even playing on decision day? Stupid.
Because there's an odd number of teams in the MLS, which
See
is
what I mean?
stupid.
Stupid.
Let's move on, shall we? And we're gonna
new
head
segment.
Over. Yep.
Why the MLS is stupid. Sorry.
No, we're not doing that. We are gonna move on though to Canadian women's team because they dropped their new roster for upcoming friendly matches. They have. Who do they play? They play
Spain in Spain.
They play Spain in Spain on Friday, October 25th at the Estadio Francisco de la Jera.
I always forget how Spanish you are, Nick.
That's me, Spanish. Robert Nicholas McVicker. That's the Spanish in me. Yep.
It is.
This is a pretty solid squad. I don't think there's any real shocks in this one, but I'll read it out. Sabrina D'Angelo, Lyciane Peru, Kaylin Sheridan are our goalkeepers. Buchanan, Carl, Gillies, Lawrence, Rose, and Zadorsky are the defenders. Awujo, Fleming, Grosso, Reagan, and Smith in the midfield. And Becky, Heidema, Lacasse, Leon, Prince, Rose, and Vienne up front. Now, from a player perspective, not a whole lot of shocks. A couple injuries have led to different players coming in. I like the addition of Regan. Emma Regan from HB Cog, sorry. Jeez, that was bad. But other than that, no real shocks from the player perspective, right, Josh?
No, I think that's exactly what I said. Yeah, when you sent me that text, the roster had just dropped. Yeah, you look at this and there's really no additions. Yeah, Quinn's injured, so then you bring in Emma Regan, who she played for Canada at, I think, both the W Gold Cup and the She Believes Cup. So she slots in pretty straightforward there. Yeah, absolutely no surprises. I think I said that. I think and I repeat this. Yeah, we're not super strong in the middle of the park. Like, that feels like a bit of a concern for me. I think, Grosso's move to the NWSL is good for her. I think that was really important. Yeah. She fell out of favor with Bev, and although she was performing phenomenally in Serie A Femminile, it wasn't really enough. For whatever reason, I don't think the league gets enough respect, but it's besides the point. We're not talking about that right now.
That's a day for a conversation from a different day in the off season.
Yeah, 100%. So, there's that. And then Evelyn Vienne, I think she's been on fine form. Chloe Lacasse had a weekend for herself. Like, I think the exciting thing about this...
Olivia Smith had a great weekend.
Yes,
we'll get to that
Smith.
too.
Olivia Smith doing Olivia Smith things. Now that we spoiled the next segment? No, I'm just kidding.
Can I push back on that weak midfield, though?
Okay, yeah.
If I told you this midfield is your top two and then your third, how confident are you in this? Ready? Simia Ujo, Jessie Fleming, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then Julia Grosso as your 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it, right?
That's pretty solid. I know we're missing Quinn, obviously, and that'll hurt. But I kind of like that 3 as a rotation.
Yeah, I don't know. It's harking back to what I said at the beginning. It's always nice if you can have 2 players per possession. I guess they technically do because they have Regan. But, yeah, not on that 100%. Same caliber. But, yeah, you're not wrong.
And now the big surprise comes with the coaching staff, because this is the first... Is it the first? I think this is the first since the Olympics, isn't it?
Yep. It is indeed.
So we have an interim coaching staff.
Yep.
Andy Spence, Jen Hurst, and Neil Wood will return from the prior coaching staff. So they're coming back. But they're receiving additional support this time. Caitlin Collar, head coach of the Whitecaps FC Girls Elite, has joined the staff on an interim technical assistant basis. Maurice Bard Martel joins the staff as an interim performance analyst. And then the big one, which I think surprised a bunch of people, but when you think about it, it's not that surprising. Diana Matheson, founder of the Northern Super League and former women's national team legend, as they say on the press release, has joined the staff on an interim team support role. And she'll be providing leadership and serving as a resource for both staff and players. Now, it's one game. It's one short camp. We're talking less than 10 days. Yeah. Okay? How important do you think the additions of Diana Matheson, Caitlin Collar, and Marissa Bard Martel are to this staff in the current setup that we have?
I think it's huge. I think you're trying to rebuild the culture, right? They have to find themselves again, and I think that the women on this side, the players on this side, show that they can rally together, and they had a fantastic showing in the Olympics against adversity. But I think you're having to try and start from the ground up. Like you're starting from ground zero here, and they have to try to rediscover themselves. And so I think when you bring in a player like Diana Matheson, who has been an absolute icon for the women's side and women's sport in this game, that's huge. Just like from the get, and you're going up against again. You have all the adversity that you faced in the summer, and then you're going up now against the defending World Cup champions. Like, that's a big match in of itself. Yes, is it just a friendly? Yeah, I get that, but no. I think it's huge. It's very important. It's very important for the side at this point in time, and I think that it's a good little survey for Kevin Blue, and it's a building block onto determining what this team is actually going to look like in the future and who the head coach is going to ultimately become and all that sort of stuff.
I agree. And the addition of Matheson is huge because she's been through the program. She knows how it works. She can help the coaching staff get us back to a semi-normal ground, I guess, along with the players. The Caitlin Collar one is one that I'm very interested in. I had a chance to talk to her at the NDC Showcase in December last year, ahead of her team having a fantastic season, qualifying for CONCACAF W. She is a very, very smart coach. And you can tell she has that passion. I wouldn't be shocked if she has a consistent role with the women's national team moving forward. Whether it be the head coach role, which I think is more time away, or as an assistant right away, she has the potential to be a very important Canadian coach in the soccer landscape. So her addition to this side is really important, in my opinion, not just for her, but to help grow Canadian women coaches. Because now there's a pathway. You know what I mean? Now, if you can showcase with your club side more consistently, there is a pathway to eventually potentially getting onto the women's or men's national team bench that I don't know if it was always there.
No, I think that is 100% correct. My question for you is, what does that path look like for Caitlin Collar in that, like, would she go from the Vancouver Whitecaps Girls Elite to an NSL side?
Potentially, because the Whitecaps are owners of the Vancouver side.
Yeah.
Right? With Christine Sinclair, legend, who just played her final match on Canadian soil against, the Whitecaps FC Girls Elite. So
wallop them.
Right? So there is the potential she becomes a coach there. They haven't announced their coaching staff yet, so there's nothing guaranteed. So yes, that could be the pathway. The pathway could be she now stays with the academy, which is what the Girls Elite is. It's the Whitecaps Women's Academy. And just is an assistant coach on the national program. Like, that is also a potential. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different ways that she could get onto this Canadian coaching staff, but all of it hinges on her making sure that her team is consistently playing well.
Yeah. So. I think that's realistic. I guess alluding to who ultimately will become the next head coach of this club. If we have
really depends on
any
that.
Guesses. Yeah.
It depends on that. And it's funny, since the Olympics, because technically Bev is still the head coach.
No.
They haven't started looking for anybody, or there hasn't been any whispers or murmurs or anything about a potential search even. So I'm concerned that they're going to bring Bev back.
No.
But I don't know how you do. I just don't. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, because they haven't even mentioned anything. They haven't mentioned anything. No. So there's a lot of questions I have. But yes, I'm interested to see how this team shows up against Spain. In Spain, it'll be interesting to see if they can match up.
That's okay. Big question, I guess. Then, what is the most positive outcome? What can be taken away from this match? What do we want as Canadian soccer fans to be taken away from this game?
Good question. Just a solid performance. You don't necessarily have to win against a top team. I think that gets lost a lot of the time. I know Canada is supposed to be a top team, but you don't necessarily have to win to have a good performance. It's funny. I literally had this conversation with the team that I'm coaching yesterday.
I love it.
Because we have our first game this weekend. And I said, listen, I don't need us to win. If we play, if we come out and we perform and we work hard and we do everything we're supposed to do, and we lose, I won't be upset.
No.
But you have to give it your all. You have to show up. You have to perform. You can't stumble your way to a draw and me be happy. You can't play poorly and win and me necessarily be happy. I'm going to be more happy if you get a point or get points without playing well. But if you are not playing up to your potential, and I think that's the biggest thing, if Canada can play up to their potential against Spain, realistically, they're probably their best potential is a draw. Yeah. They could win. I'm not saying they can't win, but if we're being realistic, Spain is a better side right now.
Yeah.
So winning is a stretch. A draw is realistic. A loss is possible, and as long as you play well, as long as they come out and perform, and they lose while giving 100%, I think that's okay. I would love to see a draw.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. And do we think that Spence is going to go 3-4-3? Like, are we going to see
Probably.
essentially the same setup that we've seen? Yeah, I guess like it's hard. How do you implement a new vision into this side? Can you do that at this point?
Well, also, I think it also comes down to who you have available.
Yeah.
Right? Because we talked about it. Listen, we have 5 midfielders listed on this roster. 5. And one of them is Olivia Smith, who's a midfield forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, essentially.
We have 6 defenders. 6. Yeah. So maybe he rotates it to a 4-3-3, but I doubt it. I think more realistically, he sticks with what works with this side. And right now, what works is a 3-4-3.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, there's potential for rotation, and I'm sure he's going to try to get a lot of the players in. And I don't know who's technically the head coach for this camp because they didn't actually say. I'm assuming it's Spence, and it should be Spence after what he did at the Olympics. He'll hold on to that interim role at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I also want to see how involved they get Diana and Collar, because if they can get invested, they can get involved. That could also change how this team plays. So we shall see. We shall see. We shall see.
It's a big showcase.
It's a big showcase. All right, Josh, your favorite time of the day. It's time to get out of here because we're over an hour already. Let's get this going. It is the scouting report, so hit it, my friend.
It's nice because it's pretty quick because there wasn't a lot of club football to get to. So we're going to get through this as we hearken to what we mentioned earlier. Olivia Smith doing Olivia Smith things. She picks up a goal in a loss to Manchester City.
Hold on. How important was that goal, though?
What a freaking goal.
Let alone how great the goal was. How important was that goal? What is that? Do you know what that goal represented?
What does that goal represent?
That was Nick, the first Liverpool women's goal scored at Anfield.
Oh!
First
look at that.
Liverpool women's goal scored at Anfield. And it was by who? Olivia Smith.
Olivia Smith.
Let's go.
Olivia Smith. Soriano. Oh, it's been killing it. It was exciting. This has been a very exciting lead-in to this international break because we had Olivia Smith doing Olivia Smith things. A beautiful strike. She was injured. Like she seemed to be injured after the play, which was slightly concerning. But anyhow, she's okay now.
She was overcome with emotion, too. Let's also throw that
You have to be, right?
That was a big moment. So, anyways, continue. Sorry.
That was incredible. And then, Chloe freaking Lacasse. A hat trick. That was not on my bingo card for my Thanksgiving weekend.
Bingo.
I had absolutely no, it was insane. I'm watching this game. I'm like, there's one. That's incredible. That was an early goal. There's 2. That's what?
A brace?
And there was a brace, and then she scores the hat trick, and I was like, have mercy on my turkey forsaken soul. I was like, there's no way. Passion mashed potatoes, Chloe Lacasse is her. Like, it was like, brilliant.
Don't ask her to pass the mashed potatoes. She'll just put them in the back of the net.
Oh!
All right, continue. Sorry.
And that's pretty much all we got. Yeah, that was like an interesting game. It was Utah Royals versus Jordan Heideman's Seattle Reign. I guess, and Quinn's Seattle Reign.
And Quinn's Seattle Reign. Come on, man.
My apologies.
Come on, man.
That is your sports scouting report.
That's our scouting report. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. One thing that we also want to mention is we got to give a shout out to one of the best Canadian women's national team players over the past, 15 years almost?
Yeah.
Desiree Scott announces her retirement, put out a great video, and the Destroyer. What a nickname.
Pretty iconic.
What a nickname. She goes out, been struggling with injuries, been struggling with a lot this year. Probably not the way we wanted to see her go out, but you know what? Kudos to her, battling, getting through everything. She did a phenomenal job for the women's national program. And we can only do what we do, and that's thank her for being the amazing player that she was. So, Desiree Scott, from the bottom of the supporter section podcast here, all of our hearts, and all of the fans, thank you for everything you've done. I heard she is now going to probably have a off-the-pitch role with the Northern Super League. Shocking, I know.
No, who would have thought?
But apparently she might be trying to bring a team to Winnipeg.
a team that might be able to win.
Whoa.
Shot at Valor.
Whoa.
Who said that?
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I didn't
That
mean it
was
like that.
unnecessary.
It was a prank. It was a prank.
That
It
was
wasn't personal.
unnecessary. I'm sorry, Valor fans. I'll deal with him later.
kidding.
Josh,
Love you
anything you
guys.
want to add before we head out today, buddy?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. Well, for Josh Palermo, I'm Nick McVicker. Thank you for listening to the From the Supporter Section podcast. Make sure you check us out on YouTube at the From the Supporter Section YouTube channel. We are now on our own channel. Garage Door Sports has been great, but we are on our own channel. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at FTSS Pod. And we try to put out content consistently. Josh did a great job covering the Canada-Panama match this week from the media booth and with some pictures and media quotes from the press conferences and mixed zone. He did a great job with that, so thank you, sir. We will be back hopefully next week. That's up in the air. There's a lot going on. Our schedules have kind of gotten a little crazy, but we will try to be back next week after decision day, after the outcome. Until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.